Nature is unkind. It treats the creation like sacrificial straw dogs. The sage is unkind. He treats the people like sacrificial straw dogs. How the universe is like a bellows, empty. Yet it gives a supply that never fails. The more it is worked, the more it brings forth. By many words is wit exhausted, rather, therefore, whole to the core. The 5 colors blind the eyes of man. The 5 musical notes deafen the ears of man. The 5 flavors dull the taste of man. Horse racing, hunting and chasing madden the minds of man. Rare, valuable goods keep their owners awake at night. Therefore the sage provides for the belly and not the eye. Hence, he rejects the one and accepts the other. Favor and disgrace cause one dismay. What we value and what we fear are within ourself. What does this mean? Favor and disgrace cause one dismay. Those who receive a favor from above are dismayed when they receive it, and dismayed when they lose it. What does this mean? What we value and what we fear are within ourself. We have fears because we have a self. When we do not regard that self as self, what have we to fear? Therefore he who values the world as his self may then be entrusted with the government of the world, and he who loves the world as his self, the world may then be entrusted to his care. The wise ones of old had subtle wisdom and depth of understanding, so profound that they could not be understood, and because they could not be understood, perforce must they be so described, cautious, like crossing a wintry stream, irresolute, like one fearing danger all round, grave, like one acting as guest, self-effacing, like ice beginning to melt, genuine, like a piece of undressed wood, open-minded, like a valley, and mixing freely like murky water. The good ones I declare good, the bad ones I also declare good. That is the goodness of virtue. The honest ones I believe, the liars I also believe. That is the faith of virtue. Who can find repose in a muddy world by lying still? It becomes clear. Who can maintain his calm for long? By activity it comes back to life. He who embraces this Tao guards against being overfull. Because he guards against being overfull, he is beyond wearing out and renewal. Attain the utmost in passivity. Hold firm to the basis of quietude. The myriad things take shape and rise to activity, but I watch them fall back to their repose, like vegetation that luxuriantly grows, but returns to the root soil from which it springs. To return to the root is repose. It is called going back to one's destiny. Going back to one's destiny is to find the eternal law. To know the eternal law is enlightenment, and not to know the eternal law is to court disaster. He who knows the eternal law is tolerant, being tolerant. He is impartial, being impartial. He is kingly, being kingly. He is in accord with nature, being in accord with nature. He is in accord with Tao, being in accord with Tao. He is eternal, and his whole life is preserved. From harm, to yield is to be preserved whole. To be bent is to become straight. To be hollow is to be filled. To be tattered is to be renewed. To be in want is to possess. To have plenty is to be confused. Therefore the sage embraces the one, and becomes the model of the world. He does not reveal himself, and is therefore luminous. He does not justify himself, and is therefore far-famed. He does not boast of himself, and therefore people give him credit. He does not pride himself, and is therefore the chief among men. Is it not indeed true, as the ancients say, To yield is to be preserved whole, thus he is preserved, and the world does him homage. Nature says few words. Hence it is that a squall lasts not a whole morning, a rainstorm continues not a whole day. Where do they come from? From nature. Even nature does not last long in its utterances. How much less should human beings? Therefore it is that he who follows the Tao is identified with the Tao dot. He who follows character Te is identified with character. He who abandons Tao is identified with abandonment of Tao. He who is identified with Tao, Tao is also glad to welcome him. He who is identified with character, character is also glad to welcome him. He who is identified with abandonment, abandonment is also glad to welcome him. He who is not enough faith will not be able to command faith from others. Tao is absolute and has no name. Though the uncarved wood is small, it cannot be used as vessel by anyone. If kings and barons can keep this unspoiled nature, the whole world shall yield them lordship of their own accord. To heaven and earth joy, and the sweet rain falls beyond the command of men, yet evenly upon all. Then human civilization arose, and there were names. Since there were names, it were well one knew where to stop. He who knows where to stop may be exempt from danger. Tao in the world may be compared to rivers that run into the sea. Reversion is the action of Tao. Gentleness is the function of Tao. The things of this world come from being, and being comes from non-being. When the highest type of men hear the Tao truth, they try hard to live in accordance with it. When the mediocre types hear the Tao, they seem to be aware and yet unaware of it. When the lowest type hear the Tao, they break into loud laughter. If it were not laughed at, it would not be Tao. Therefore there is the established saying, who understands Tao seems dull of comprehension, whose advance in Tao seems to slip backwards, who moves on the even Tao path seems to go up and down. Superior character appears like a hollow valley. Sheer white appears like tarnished. Great character appears like infirm. Pure worth appears like contaminated. Great space has no corners. Great talent takes long to mature. Great music is faintly heard. Great form has no contour, and Tao is hidden without a name. It is this Tao that is adept at lending its power and bringing fulfillment. Fame or one's own self, which does one love more? One's own self or material goods, which has more worth? Loss of self or possession of goods, which is the greater evil? Therefore, he who loves most spends most. He who hoards much loses much. The contented man meets no disgrace. Who knows when to stop runs into no danger. He can long endure. The sage has no decided opinions and feelings, but regards the people's opinions and feelings as his own. The good ones I declare good, the bad ones I also declare good. That is the goodness of virtue. The honest ones I believe, the liars I also believe. That is the faith of virtue. The sage dwells in the world peacefully, harmoniously. The people of the world are brought into a community of heart, and the sage regards them all as his own children. Out of life, death enters. The companion's organs of life are 13. The companion's organs of death are also 13. What send man to death in this life are also these 13. How is it so? Because of the intense activity of multiplying life. It has been said that the who is a good preserver of high life, meets no tigers or wild buffaloes on land, is not vulnerable to weapons in the field of battle. The horns of the wild buffalo are powerless against him. How is it so? Because he is beyond death, who is rich in characters like a child. No poisonous insects sting him, no wild beasts attack him, and no birds of prey pounce upon him. His bones are soft, his sinews tender, yet his grip is strong. Not knowing the union of male and female, yet his organs are complete, which means his vigor is unspoiled, crying the whole day, yet his voice never runs hoarse, which means his natural harmony is perfect. To know harmony is to be in accord with the eternal, and to know eternity is called discerning, but to improve upon life is called an ill omen. To let go the emotions through impulse is called assertiveness, for things age after reaching their prime. That assertiveness would be against Tao, and he who is against Tao perishes young. That which lies still is easy to hold. That which is not yet manifest is easy to forestall. That which is brittle like ice easily melts. That which is minute easily scatters. Deal with a thing before it is there. Check disorder before it is rife. A tree with a full span's girth begins from a tiny sprout. A 9-storied terrace begins with a clod of earth, a journey of 1,000 beings at one's feet. He who acts spoils, he who grasps lets slip. Because the sage does not act, he does not spoil. Because he does not grasp, he does not let slip. The affairs of men are often spoiled within an ace of completion. By being careful, at the end as at the beginning failure is averted. Therefore the sage desires to have no desire, and values not objects difficult to obtain, learns that which is unlearned, and restores what the multitude have lost, that he may assist in the course of nature and not presume to interfere. My teachings are very easy to understand and very easy to practice, but no one can understand them and no one can practice them. In my words there is a principle. In the affairs of men there is a system. Because they know not these, they also know me not, since there are few that know me. Therefore I am distinguished. Therefore the sage wears a coarse cloth on top and carries jade within his bosom. When man is born, he is tender and weak at death. He is hard and stiff. When the things and plants are alive, they are soft and supple. When they are dead, they are brittle and dry. Therefore hardness and stiffness are the companions of death, and softness and gentleness are the companions of life. Therefore when an army is headstrong, it will lose in a battle. When a tree is hard, it will be cut down. The big and strong belong underneath. The gentle and weak belong at the top. There is nothing weaker than water, but none is superior to it in overcoming the hard, for which there is no substitute. That weakness overcomes strength and gentleness overcomes rigidity. No one does not know, no one can put into practice. Therefore the sage says, who receives unto himself the calumny of the world is the preserver of the state. Who bears himself the sins of the world as king of the world, straight words seem crooked.